All right, so I mean the topic for this evening fits quite nicely into Mandela Day. And in a way, what happened during Mandela Day, which was by far for me the most important thing, was that our energy as a community was really accentuated. Yeah, we had to pull together and we had to create this bubble in which we were doing our thing there. And much as it was creating an impact on the outside world, the greatest impact was really on us and on our way forward. So my understanding of advocacy is a little bit different. I mean, it has two sides to it. One is definitely the sort of classic understanding of using yoga to challenge the status quo, to look at things which are injustices, and to use yoga to try and create awareness around those things. And the other aspect of advocacy, which I see as really important, often with advocacy you'll have a group of people who are doing something for a community, with but stroke for a community, and the community is seen to be voiceless and powerless and not have capacity to create change in their own lives. And so you have advocacy campaigns which will look at how to make things better in that community. So my understanding of advocacy is a little different. My understanding of advocacy is we are using advocacy internally in our organization in order to grow our capacity to hold that energy of change internally. So that what we do as a group is we empower our own voices. We empower our own capacity. And then that, of course, because we're not a closed group, that will then reverberate in the other communities in which we work as we draw more and more and more people in to this technology and into this community where we create access and we allow people, we enable people to become more and more powerful with the technology so that their lives are transformed. That is the advocacy. That is my understanding of yoga as advocacy in this context. So it's not that we are going out there in order to create access for other groups. That will happen as a byproduct because we're creating access within our community. So Mandela Day was really partly that. It was getting out there and creating the capacity internally to hold this energy and to hold this space. And in doing so, creating a lot of curiosity and creating a lot of awareness and creating a lot of kind of perhaps even resistance. Like on every level there was an impact, yeah? And that will happen the more that we go out there and show ourselves. There are many, I've prepared a little slideshow, like what is advocacy? There are classic understandings of advocacy, and you might kindly send me some great websites which spoke about the difference between doing service, where you go out and you create programs for people, like going out and teaching community classes, or serving people with HIV/AIDS, or going and teaching children or the elderly. That's service. That's not advocacy. So advocacy is where you're identifying a need and agitating, creating some kind of awareness and some kind of action around that need. So for us, I think it's important that we understand how to make our voices heard and our presence felt. To ensure that we have access to information and whatever services we need for a better quality of life. That we enable ourselves to explore choices and options, and we defend and promote our rights and responsibilities. If we get that right for ourselves, as a community, we can carry that in anywhere and everywhere we go, and that will become something that is promoted in other communities. Through the teachers going out, reaching into other communities, through us drawing in people from other communities to train as teachers, through us becoming aware of different areas in our city, for example, that really need to change. Things like, and I prepared a slide for that, to look at different possible areas of activism. So health for me is a real area of activism. We can add to this. I'm just going to give a presentation and then open it up to the floor. But I'm just stimulating thought here around health is something which is not accessible to the majority of people. People don't have access to really good food. They don't have access to ways of exercising the mind and the body, easy access. People don't have access to good services in hospitals. So that's a real area of activism. Religion is a very big area of activism because religion has colonized, for example, the science of sound. So that when we go out there and we teach using sound, it becomes an immediate challenge to the religions out there. So it's an area of activism because that doesn't belong to any one religion or any one place. The science of sound is something that belongs to humanity as a whole. That sound, when we use it for healing, is more effective than anything else, and research shows us this. That when we use the voice and we combine it with intention, that it creates massive happenings in the body which take us forward. So it's just an area to think about. Birthing has been co-opted by the medical world. Women do not own their births anymore by any means. Most women have to mediate their births through doctors, and they're too frightened to do anything else. Women have lost the capacity to stand up and say, my birth is my business, and I determine what happens, because we've had the knowledge taken away from us. That's another area of activism. And then access to services, that's a pretty obvious one, where services are generally privatized, particularly in this city. So access to services, if they are available, are very poor. And the majority of people have to suffer through without having any say. They have no voice. If they do speak, they're not heard. So that's another area. Crime and public safety. We live locked up in our homes. We're too frightened, especially as women and children, to go anywhere and feel safe while doing that. It's a serious area for us. So public areas like parks, like the streets, are not available to us in safety. Education is another area of activism, where education is so expensive that it's out of reach for most people. And when it is there, and people can access it, the kind of education that we can get is so owned by different systems of wealth that we don't really know where the information is coming from, where that education, what is it actually training us to do? Is it training us to be these servants to a certain system? And generally that is the case. And then finally, of course, access to wealth, which is what the class was about tonight. That prosperity is seen to be something that belongs to very few people. And the majority of people are born believing that they will never have access to wealth. And there's a prison in the mind around that. And it creates this inner attitude of lack, which is then reflected all over the place in their lives. So that's my presentation here, and I'm opening it out to the floor for us to really look at, okay, so what comes up for you?
I don't know if this is the thing, but just in terms of health, you mentioned something about people not having access to, and also it doesn't have to be underprivileged or anything, just people having no idea where to go and what to do with their bodies. I've been hearing a lot of people talking about people who have depression, and hearing a lot of people saying they're seeing someone to talk to, which is great, but like sometimes it's not the only thing that you need, and then it ends up being meds. Well, when I've spoken to those people, I've been like, yeah, but sometimes you just need to move your body, and I don't actually know where else to take that conversation with them, because you finally move your body. I can't say come to yoga and do that, yes, but like if you're not brave enough to do come here now or whatever, because depression is that kind of thing, what can we tell them, you know, like at home or something, you know what I mean? Like to start there and then open up, this is kind of, I feel kind of better, maybe I can go into a class and do a whole thing with other people.
Exactly. Is that a question?
Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, so remembering that the scope of practice is limited when it comes to mental or physical illness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Bearing that in mind, Kundalini yoga teachers are trained to teach healthy people. But bearing that in mind as well, that even a simple thing like inhale sat, exhale nam, for a person who's depressed, will create that, and particularly if you describe and explain the vibration of sat being truth, and nam being the kind of ownership of that truth, so that there's a different person who is revealed through the sat nam and the breath combined, raising the pranic levels, etc., can radically change a person's energy levels. Just that will create a curiosity. If a person is depressed, there's no curiosity because there's no energy. So it would be way too much to come to this space for a person who's depressed. But sometimes they can't even get out of bed. Yeah, but like just that, just inhale sat, exhale nam. If you can't do anything else, that's enough. It's powerful. So those are the small little things that you can direct people to froggies. But generally people who are depressed won't have the energy to do that. So breath work is the best. Breath and sound. Even if it's silent sound. Yeah? That's extremely effective.
So you mean like chanting in the mind? Okay.
Vibrating sat, inhale, nam, exhale. That's using the science of sound, even if it's silent.
Thank you.
I have a question about the difference between service and advocacy. I understand what you're saying, but for me when you talk about advocacy, saying that you're fulfilling need, raising awareness, and getting momentum for that, that sounds like the same thing to me as what service would do. You're fulfilling a need, you raising awareness, and you creating momentum. I don't understand the differences.
Well, the classic understanding of advocacy, and this is what I was reading on the websites, is that it's a group that is the advocate for a community. And they identify together with the community a way of agitating to create change and to create access within the community. The way we do it, that's why I'm creating a distinction between the classic understanding of advocacy and our understanding where yoga is advocacy. Yoga in itself is challenging a lot of these concepts. Yeah? Just the way in which we learn and teach it, well, the way in which we learn and teach it, yes, as in Akitsa and Kundalini Africa Rising, in itself is challenging ways of thinking about health, ways of thinking about religion, ways of thinking about birthing, depending which area we're working in. So I completely agree with you that the way in which we practice and teach needs to encompass that attitude of advocacy in itself, but for ourselves, yes? So that we create the advocacy here, in this group. And in doing that, because we're not in a closed group, we're bringing people in all the time, that is spreading. So we're not going out to do, there's, that sort of working in this community to create change. That's not what we're doing. It's a different understanding, at least in my brain. There's a different understanding of how we're using advocacy and how we're using yoga as advocacy.
Isn't maybe the main difference like the intention or the approach? So for example, when we're going in and we're like, okay, this is advocacy work, we're very intentionally saying we've done this type of transformation and we are like trying to get that. Whereas service is more just kind of very humbly, very subtly providing a platform where the change will naturally take place.
Or not.
It's not about change. Service isn't necessarily about change. Service is like, oh, there's orphans, we'll go every Saturday to play with orphans.
But
That doesn't necessarily change the situation of why orphans exist.
yeah, no, I'm not, when I say change, I'm referring to the subtle changes that the yoga creates. Whether it's well-being,
It's
whether
true.
it's being able to meditate,
It's
whether
true.
it's
Yes.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
If you're coming from that perspective,
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
Well, something that's challenging for me and always has been and still is this, and I understand the concept of first working on self before going outside of that. But having been in activism situations and contexts and communities, people really actually frown on that understanding and think that it's like spiritual BS. And it's something that I struggle with as well sometimes. So how do you navigate or explain that to yourself as well as others?
So for me, I think it's a really important question, and it's a really important understanding that the whole concept of yoga is that me working on myself is at the same time working on you because we are connected, right? But we take that to another level. We don't just stay with that going, well, I can actually meditate for the next 50 years because I'm healing the country by doing that. We do for relationships. There's a lot of issues because it's about I love myself and I forgive you. Yeah, those are big statements. Both of those statements are huge. So if there's any resistance there, then you know, like the immune system will take a dip. A huge dip. Where you just isolate and then you're just happy with, and we've seen that has happened with yoga in general in the world. That yogis have retreated into that complacent, self-focused, individualistic way of operating. But that's not the original understanding. The original understanding is in creating that sense that the other person is you, that you are consistently creating relationships all the time, actively creating those relationships. So one of the ways in which we've expressed that is that we're not just teaching community classes or going out to Mandela Square to show how amazing we are. We're pulling people in to create more teachers. So we are doing that individual work with an intention to pull people towards us. And it's happening. The movement is growing. So it's working. So the amount of energy that we're creating internally is not to be replowed in to make me a fantastic person. It is so that we pull people in and the community grows. So that's where that understanding becomes broader. But it's actually the original understanding anyway. That's what yoga, that's the whole intention.
I also think that, to be an effective activist, if you don't have spiritual BS, then you're an ineffective activist. And in a sense, the traditions of activism in South Africa that neglected to take care of that aspect of the activist identity have revealed itself now in the way in which the country is going wrong. Because the revolutionary activists have become greedy capitalists. You know what I mean? And so what went wrong. There was something missing in the education as activists. So if you're not going to repeat those mistakes historically, you need a new kind of activist that is spiritually tuned in and is less susceptible to the temptations of materialism and power. You know what I mean? And so it's actually indispensable for the next wave of activists to create a better world, that they become more spiritually aware if they can improve on the current batch. Yeah. So I mean, that's the one thing. But I mean, the other aspect of it is a book that I got from, what I heard about through Louise, called Psychology, which I'm still trying to get my head around. It's quite a difficult sort of thing. But there's a whole sort of branch of thought in psychology emerging, that your unique individual psychological problems, your sort of schizophrenia or whatever, is actually a fragment of group consciousness that you are enacting, you know. And in your healing, one has to see it in that context to deal with the problem, because they are sensitive souls who pick up on the energies around them and reflect that through their own lived experience as trauma or so on. Doesn't mean that they inherently fucked up. It means that, I mean, they're picking up on energies around them and expressing that because they're kind of lightning conductors for everybody else's nonsense, you know. And also in our relationship to our material reality, like how we deal with our waste, or how we provide the energy we need to live, you know, that is a kind of reflection of our group unconscious. So these lights are burning because in Mpumalanga we're burning coal. Now there's something weird about that. We don't need to do that, you know what I mean? So we're getting light here by polluting the atmosphere, you know what I mean? So the sort of school of eco-psychology is suggesting that there's a connection between that reality. Somebody chose to make it that way, and the inner world. You know what I mean? We didn't take responsibility for being in tune with nature and involved in the cycles of nature, where there is no waste and no pollution, because a leaf that falls becomes compost that nourishes the roots of the tree that grows again. You know, everything's in those sort of cycles. And so if you're out of step and out of tune with that reality of nature, then that disturbance in the consciousness reflects itself in how you organize society. So to become spiritually aware is also to sort of heal oneself, and in that way heal the planet in a funny kind of way. So there are all those dimensions, so we have to fight for the spiritual agenda. And I don't even believe in God, but you know, but the idea that it is a spiritual reality which we have to deal with. You know? So don't give up on that now. And so I'm not, I also have to excuse myself because I have to look after the 11-year-old has to go to bed now, so I'd love to have said I've had my say.
That's a good sale.
I wanted to fully agree with what was said there, and for me I think it links to the point around access to wealth, how we view wealth in society, and the whole idea of wealth as gross accumulation by a few, to the extent that I don't know, people, it's like a very easy shift of the mind if you're there, that whole idea that there's plenty of everything for everyone. It's like if you approach it from a place of, if you have equality or equity, no one has to ever lack anything, but the kind of reality we live in is where we think that in order for there to be plenty, there has to be lack somewhere. And so for a few to accumulate, the many have to suffer. And I think it also has an effect on how we provide services, how we approach life. And just going back to what was said there, I don't know if I can articulate it very well. But for me, it's very interesting that in the reality we live in, even poor people defend it, because we've created this thinking that the point is to get up there where the 1% is and get to the table so that I can also replicate what's been happening to me. So you have people, and I think that the idea that you introduced, Ita, of this thinking, this coming from a place of lack. So people think that they have to get there, but like if you just shift the mind and say, but wait a minute, I don't have to get anywhere, it's all here. And so it's created that dynamic where even when you try to question these systems and this economic order, you find even poor people defending it, because in their minds one day they're going to get there. In their minds one day they're going to be that guy who gets to oppress someone because they've got money and access and all this. And people are not looking to a place of equity where there's no lack. People are looking to a place of getting to where the 1% tile, which is virtually impossible. So it creates that, what you were saying, that we're in a situation where it's nearly impossible to break class. It's nearly impossible to move from the class you were born in. None of us, in this current order, virtually none of us will ever break that class barrier. Where you were born is where you will die. And I think then it conflicts with what you were saying, Ita, that doesn't have to exist. It's just like a barrier that we've built in our own minds. And so it's become our reality.
Can I build on something?
Right.
Can I respond first?
No, you can go ahead now.
I was wondering, while we're talking, I have all sorts of like ideas and semantics and stuff, and I just wanted to add some of that. Because like I think one of the, I don't know if it's the greatest mistake of humans or whatever, is obviously to separate ourselves from nature. Semantically, we create these kind of imaginary worlds that we actualize, which is extremely powerful, but obviously fundamentally flawed. And it's so funny, especially when you look at the word economics. Because economics means environment and it means home. And what it's been turned into is a capitalist agenda. If you watch any kind of economic show, it sounds like they're speaking complete gibberish. Like, oh, there's a bubble over here. It's all imaginary. Like the whole money system is imaginary and it's controlled and it's perpetuated. And it's literally, if you study economics at school, how it translates is the study of scarcity. That's literally what it means. So what they're doing is they manufacture scarcity to create a system of value, and then they distribute scarcity so that certain people can be wealthy. And South Africa is one of the primary examples of that. We have one of the highest, what do you call it? Inequality gap in the world, where two people own the same as like 70% of the population, over 50% of the population.
And we're also like, we measure success by economic growth, but economic growth doesn't necessarily mean economic transformation or economic development. At a time where we're growing at 6%, at a 6% rate, we're growing at 0 now. South Africa had the highest inequality rates in the world, so it really meant nothing in terms of the lives of ordinary people. So, okay, so what, we're growing at 6%, woohoo, we've got one of the biggest economies in Africa, but it means nothing if people still lack basics, where they don't know where their next meal is going to come from. And where people are lacking at the most basic and fundamental level. It's just like...
And one last thing, I think the epitome of that is, for example, strategies of like the DA. The DA will be like,
very anti-public.
let's sell all our resources so that we're getting money because then we're doing great. But then they don't, like for example, they will build a bicycle lane in Sea Point as opposed to like fix a road in Manville. And there's kind of this perceived thing of like, oh, we're only doing well when rich people are succeeding and when their assets are fine. The holistic understanding of the environment has left, because it's obviously now a thing of like those in control and they satisfy themselves. And it's ironic because there's a lack all around. Because the people who are impoverished have a lack and they're operating on a survival level, and the people who are gaining from the system have a kind of spiritual and psychological lack, so they perpetuate the
And a
system.
fear.
You know that
Constantly
like,
fearing
The biggest
result.
kleptomaniacs are rich people. People who steal, because there's still that emptiness inside, and like the greediest people are the people who have everything, and they still feel that they need more and more and more and more. And yeah,
So I mean, I just want to make a point here that by buying into it, in other words, we, you know, and we all to a certain extent buy into the system. Yeah,
We have to.
money to survive. You know, we've really been co-opted in the most kind of pernicious way, in the most like evil at its root, is when you are sucked into something you haven't given your permission, you haven't been given even an understanding of what the system is. You're basically in a trance, so, which is what we're all in. Yeah, we're all in this trance where we buy in. We really believe it. We really believe that we have to have money to survive, right? And then we go out there and we live that life to get money in order to survive, because the whole system is based on that. So the issue for us here is really, how do you break the trance?
Go first, I spoke.
Well, I say it's an issue of empowerment, and also to break it, you have to start with each family unit. You can't break it unless you're going to heal each family unit. The families are the ones that create the messed up people that we see in society, you know, and obviously we can say it's our conditioning that we have agreed upon in society as this is normal, and yeah, we're going to stick it this way. But ultimately to heal it, you know, we have to first start looking at the power issues in each individual home. You know, yeah, we share them. You know, whatever I'm going through, you know, someone else is going through it in a different degree, in a different expression, but it's still the same thing. So, to remedy this situation, firstly, like, we can't have mother here with the kids and dad's there, you know, or mom and dad here, but they only get to see their children, maybe let's say 6 to 8, but they don't pay attention to them. Then in the morning, well, it's get ready, and you send the kids out to go, you know, because you're not raising children. You know, what we're doing, yeah, we send them for the best and to the best schools and all of that, but what we're ultimately doing is we're creating machines, you know, which don't have the most fundamental aspect of being a human, love. You know, no one can teach you, the first people to teach you love is your family, and if it's not there, we'll always have issues with it in the world. So yeah, so it's a issue of power.
So Eve.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. First, I'd like to say that I realized over the past couple of months that love is actually such a fundamental. We laugh at it and we're like, oh, yogi people and people that are one with themselves, love and peace and love, but like actually, yes. Because if you don't love yourself, there's no way that you can love other people, and then there's no way that you can communicate with love with other people, you know?
And it's just
That
the way in
thought is
which we
done.
understand.
Can I go for my next thought, please?
Sorry. No, it's just like the way in which we come to understand love in such a limited way. Because love is actually political. It's not this romantic rom-com movie. It's like
political.
Because the way in which you love can change situations, and can be a political tool to transform a community or a family or the dynamics of power.
So this is a, let me just pick up on this before we continue. This is a, because the kind of catchphrase of Kundalini yogis is we are the people of love. That's the kind of mantra that people walk around talking, and it's a massive claim. Yeah, to be able to really live that is a very big claim, and in that way it becomes advocacy in its root, because it's scoffed at. You know, people, does that mean you're a tree hugger? Even that. Yeah, absolutely. That I'm communicating with trees completely. Yes.
And I like it.
So to reclaim the territory, and it's got to do with all of these areas here, is to reclaim, and literally, I mean, we know that we spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, we're in the Kali Yuga, we're in the dark ages. So this is expected. It's expected for things to be going into this place of absolute madness, where nothing makes sense, and people are living in trances and they can't get out of the trance. That is Kali Yuga. So the people of love have got a very particular responsibility in this time. And it's not to transform the masses, it's to get 7%. It's to get just a percentage of people who are the seekers, who are the ones who are not in a trance. In fact, they are so miserable, but they're not in a trance. They just want to slit their wrists and get out of here, but they're not in a trance. Those are the ones who would.
Can we just continue? You might point.
I can't because I think I forgot what I was.
You forgot either way.
Oh yes, I remember now.
Wait, that's a good point. So, something that I've been dealing with in my own personal capacity over the past couple of months, just especially because of the prayer that we did today and why we're having this conversation, is that everything you have it, you were born with it, your abundance, your everything. And I've been literally forced into a corner of silence and stillness, you know. And it was frustrating for a while. I was like, oh my God. I just like want to do stuff, you know, because I need money firstly to pay my rent, to live, to whatever. And but stuff has just been happening, you know, without me trying to like, because usually I'm this person who's like running into the wall head first, like trying to make things happen. And now I'm at that place where I'm like, okay, cool, I'm here, whatever it is that you need me to listen to, I'm listening to that. And I mean, of course, I'm not a millionaire, but like I've got the things that I need somehow. Can't tell you how. It's difficult for me to talk about to people who are not yogis, because it's like, yeah, sure.
You have to be.
Yeah, so we do have to be.
Yeah.
Also, some of the most successful people, like, I don't know, like, I think we're also in a dimension that, like, prizes, like, working and never sleeping until, like, you know, like the culture of being busy and this whole idea that you must busy yourself and work an 80-hour week to feel accomplished. And most of those people are tired. Most of those people want to die. Most of those people they never want to wake up in the morning. But we're in this culture that says, like, they sleep and grind or whatever.
Yeah.
Although in a culture that says we must be like them.
Yes.
That's the worst part.
I think the other thing I wanted to pick up on was what was said about romantic love, and I think I want to connect it to the discussion around like working on the self, and when does working on the self or prioritizing the self, what's the balance between that and like just gross individualism, which is what we've gotten to. A lot of people have bought into this very new thinking about doing me, focusing on myself, but at the same time it's very consumptive of other people, just like sucking energy from other people in the name of doing yourself or just being you or discovering your individual self. And like, I think a lot of the problems of our society come from that individualism, and the very fact that we're here and discussing the things that we're discussing is because we've been ruled by individualism for so long, and that, you know, that the culture of like, or the cult rather, of individual success. To say that in order to say that you've made it, you need to prove that you've done it against all odds and against everyone, and that you won by yourself, by the sheer power of your own will, screw everyone else. It's just like, it's barely ever that way, because everything you do on the back of others, like you're part of a unit. You can never say you succeeded purely off the strength of yourself, and that's what's created a lot of dishonesty in society. And linking that back to the idea of romantic love, and I feel like, I don't know, it's a Roman concept as far as I understand it, and again, it also ties into that individualism, because it's like it reduces love down to two people who are very codependent and very individualistically want to own each other and walk into the sunset and stare into each other's lives forever. No, but like, it's to the exclusion of a community. It's to the exclusion of the universe in which those people exist. And it's to the exclusion, like, you find people, like, people are married, but they don't want their extended family involved in it. In their mind, their family is the nucleus. The mother, father, and the child, that perfect nuclear family setting. What are the other connections? And we've come to demonize those other connections, like this existing trope of the evil mother-in-law, you know, and like this existing trope of the evil wife who came to steal our son and now we never see him anymore. All she does is want to eat his money. Like all these things that work against a more universal idea of family. And like, even the way we live in suburbs, it gives very much to that nuclear thing. And as a result, people are isolated, sick, and depressed in the suburbs. There's no public life, there's no community life, there's no, and we're all chasing that ideal. Like, I want to be able to say, I bought a house, I've got my 2.5 kids, and my husband, but at the same time you're suffering. It's just not sustainable. You need people. Like, you can't live in isolation. So for me, it also ties into that crime and public safety. A lot of issues of crime and public safety are around how our communities are organized, how our spaces are organized. A little Boondorf street where if you don't live on that Boondorf street, you have to be exposed to dangers because you have to traverse all the way around just to come and catch a taxi here, you know? And so when you think about private security, why does so much of private security happen in public space? Because people have imperatives to protect private properties. I can't walk on the street. Like, I can't enjoy my neighborhood without some guy in a big car coming to ask me who I am, what I'm doing, where I'm from, do I live there? Or someone in a WhatsApp group going, there's a suspicious woman. And we all know who suspicious guy is. It's a black young man. There's a suspicious guy. Now you're just walking down the street, there's people, he gets tackled. And he was just trying to get home, just minding his business. Next thing it's stop, drop and roll, hey, who are you? Headlock. And it's just like, this is the reality we live in, you know? So we need to like, I think tied to the idea of crime in public spacing, public safety is the need to transform space. Like spatial transformation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So your entry point was initially a question around doing the self, right?
Yeah.
So my experience with doing this is that I think about myself less the more I do for myself. So it allows me, it frees me up to give to other people because I'm not so much around my shit.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, it's there, hello. But the more I do that, the more capacity I gain.
Yes.
But it's because I entered into specifically the Kundalini through a mindset of self, of liberating myself and not regulating myself. So the women that go to whatever yoga studios, they go 3 times a week and they're like, now I'm self-regulated. So it doesn't matter if the identity that they have on the mat is incongruent with the identity that they have in the world. Because their purpose for doing yoga is not to liberate themselves. It's to regulate themselves so that they can live in the trance of capitalism. So all they're doing is they're mediating the effects of society. They're not considering changing the society that they live in.
But I also feel like there's a difference between working on yourself and truly doing the work, or the thing you write on social media and stuff. Doing me, totally doing me.
Yeah, but that's
Slay.
yeah, but that's the ego
Shine the ball. They will see.
But that's prized in society.
Yeah.
Give your ego a megaphone.
Yeah.
That's what we want. So we need to learn to turn that down.
Well, there's a the kind of expansion of ego. I mean, there's an understanding of ego as being, something negative, and yes, there is that aspect to it, right? There's an aspect of ego that is negative, and there's an aspect of ego that is really powerful and positive when it's expanded to group ego. So when it becomes one mind, when a community is able to reach that place where there is consensus without necessarily having to go to endless flippin' meetings and trying to find consensus through the verbal, but to go to an energetic consensus. Like when we were, after 3 sessions, there was an energy in the group, so that even when the newcomers came into the group that they hadn't been there doing the work with us, they were just pulled into that one mind concept. There was an energetic bubble that was happening. Now that can happen en masse. So, when you speak about the family unit is a capitalist construct. It's something that has been created in order to create a need. So for example, if you isolate a family from a community, you're going to need the doctor, you're going to need the psychologist, you're going to need the therapist, you're going to need all these services that you have to buy, because you've taken the family out of the place that provides all those services. It provides all that health, emotional, immune system health comes from connection. It comes from feeling safe and connected and being part of everything with everybody else. That sense, this here in my space, just the feel of people coming in and out all the time, that sense of people sleeping over, it's like it's revolutionary in a suburb. And it's ridiculous for it to be that way, but it is. And it shouldn't be. It should be that we should have, we have this roving community that, okay, we don't all live in the same place, but we carry that energy with us everywhere we go, that sense of connecting, because it creates very powerful immune system health. And immune system health creates mental health. So they build on each other. When we break all that down and we become these isolated little units, struggling for connection, it becomes a very sick situation. And it's what we have. Let's be realistic. This is where we are. So it's this situation that we step into with yoga as advocacy. We carry that understanding with us.
Just on what you're saying, I wanted to ask if
Can I ask something? To go back to what Carla was asking about the service and the advocacy and how you were trying to explain it, maybe it's going to help me understand and somebody else also, is it's the same thing we were talking about the self, is that we're not necessarily going out there to try and, I don't want to say give some people something, because by being there and doing the thing, you are kind of giving them something, but
Like evangelize.
Yeah, it's not about that. It's about them seeing you and the
Let me just read the word.
Let's elevate the language we use, yeah? Let's speak about what happens when the radiant body is intact. Yeah? When your radiant body is intact, you are hugely attractive. Now you can use that to become a superstar. You can. It's your choice. You are given free choice. This is a technology that will make you super powerful. You can use that to become the best actress in South Africa or in the world. You can. It's entirely up to you. You can use that for a purpose of attracting people towards you so that you can help them heal.
yes, that's what I wanted to say.
Now you can do both. You can become the best actress in the world and do that. It's not an either or. Anything. There are no limits placed on the heart. When you use the heart as the intervention instrument, everything becomes possible. We don't exclude. The individual is part of the community. We evolve the individual because the individual is a crucial part of group ego. If the individual's ego is fractured, then that is what is going to become part of the group ego. So we want to heal individual egos. Of course we do. But we want to heal it in the context of the community. So that, and the community has a focus, and the focus is to be the people of love. When you are the people of love, the force that people, the loneliness that people sit with. I see people like you talking about every day who suffer from this disease of believing in the trance and chasing the next buck. Because just not enough inside, there's just not enough here. And reaching the age of 50 and 60 and then sitting under the desk, in the office, saying, what am I doing here? I don't want to be here anymore.
And also where else to go because you don't know anything else. I even see it now, like on my own social circles of people I've known who are now like working office jobs and flashiest cars and whatever. My social media to them is just like,
What are you even doing?
yeah, what is that? Like it's a fear. I can sense like a deep Anne is lost. So much. She's lost the plot. Like, she doesn't live with us. Like she's at another place. Like where I think they want it and they want it so much, but it's the fear of losing all these things that the material. And even in the industry that I work in, like if people are like, you happy, you're yoga teacher, and you're happy, like you're not doing, you know what I mean? Like you don't have, I'm not doing the latest gig, which is, I used to chase that thing, I need to be, and now I'm just like, doing a cameo here and there, and I'm doing, teach my yoga. And it's, for them it's like, I definitely feel like a disconnect and a lack of follow, but also still so much watching to see, because,
You want to see how this is going to
unravel.
I read this
Please go.
it's really good book called Society of the Spectacle. I don't know if anybody's read it. Basically, it says that because of our materialistic existence, we've evolved or degenerated into what it calls the Society of the Spectacle. So basically before it was you have and you do. Oh no, sorry, you do and then you have. Then it became a thing of you appear to have, and now we're just literally in the phase of appearance. So you don't even have to have, you don't even have to do. You just have to appear to have and do. Which a couple that is social media, you have, basically a complete illusionary world where people's image that they're so invested in projecting is very loosely or almost not at all tied to reality. Which is obviously very dangerous, and especially when it comes to loneliness and isolation, because more people are projecting, they're trying to get this communication or whatever, but because it's not tied to like authenticity and to true communication of themselves, they end up still being lonely. And it's, and also if you think about how fiercely people are invested in social images and ideas of themselves. They, you know, for example, somebody would rather die than walk out the house with a ridiculous hat, because the idea of people seeing them as ridiculous crushes them, because they have so much invested in like this image that they're trying to create and perpetuate, and they don't know how to value themselves outside of the social construct.
I think black youth also struggle a lot more with that. Like when I'm seeing it, it's like everybody's like, I have to, why must my car be on social media? I don't understand why, and every morning I must post a selfie with my keys, my nails and my BMW steering wheel thing, you know what I mean? And I must put my shoes and how much they cost, and you know, it's all these things of like, you went out and spent 50,000 Rand in a club and you're posting that receipt for what? Like they just don't, I don't understand. Like there are people that are starving, how is that pride? How are you proud of the fact that you did that, you know? And I get it because it comes from a place where I didn't have before and now I have, and now I'm sure everyone that I've got this thing. And you know, for me, I don't know how to get into that. Maybe it's something in my future I must write down and be a part of that in the next generation when people are not put through that.
For me, trying to be a Kundalini teacher, okay. One of the things that we need to actually teach, and I've also gone through it, but I've actually overcome it now. We need to be, maybe teach people to be content with contentment. Because there's so much going on out there. So that's one thing that we actually have to teach. Then the other thing that most people have actually forgotten, and I teach my daughter, about 10 years old now, we've forgotten the soul's primary intent to achieve enlightenment in this lifetime. So we're not teaching that anymore. We're talking about a whole sorts of other things. I need to have money, nice car, all sorts of things. The next thing that I teach my daughter is not to have a PlayStation or to have like a whole, what's that hoverboard thing? It's to actually meditate every day. All these things, when she goes inside, they'll come. So seek ye first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be given unto you. So
Yeah, I've got a question. I was going to ask basically what you were saying about Rodney saying it's about like teaching people the soul's primal intent is to achieve enlightenment. So how would you explain that to just like a normal person?
you want to give it
It's like how do you
Yeah, so
explain?
like just not a normal person, because everybody's it's the regular situation.
Okay, I was born into a very Christian family.
Yeah.
It was a mixed. Like my grandmother who raised me was a son was like a also a psychic. But my mother was very staunch Christian. When we were taught earlier that as long as you go to church and you pray, you do good. That's what you're supposed to do when you're going to end up in heaven. Basically, that's what it is.
That's right.
Enlightenment is something like that. The stuff that you do with yoga, where you get your mind, your thinking mind, to be in union with your root mind, which is your soul, sitting at the heart center. And from there, the knots, all this stuff, your karmas and everything that's untangled and cleared. and the wisdom that's inside there comes out and you become enlightened. That's what it is. Then when you die, you don't come back into this life. You stay somewhere in pure light. So pure land is like heaven, basically. Yeah. So you can choose to come back and become a teacher again, like in this lifetime. And you get reborn and teach. Basically, maybe you were enlightened in the previous lifetime, chose to come back and live a normal life like everyone else. And you teach, and you reach that stage again, you go back, and you might not come back. Basically, so it's...
No, I understand that, but like, if you tell me that I meet you on the streets and what, I'm gonna be like, this guy.
Okay, go back to what she said. You take care of yourself first. You take care of yourself. When you take care of yourself, what it actually does, because you bring your mind into your heart, things like compassion, kindness, love, and all those things grows. And what Ita was saying about the radiant body, people get attracted to you. You don't have to go after people. They come. They will come, whether you like it or not. And when you talk to them, you think sometimes it's you talking to them. They hear stuff that you actually not even, you didn't actually say. But what's going on? I've never actually said that. You know what I mean? So they hear other things that you think you say, but something else is actually saying. Two people, so you actually born to do it. So, but you cultivate that stuff. So if you work on yourself, it happens automatically. You don't have to worry about those things.
So I think like about enlightenment, like I once went to a Buddhist temple, right? So in the middle of the temple there's this huge beam, and at the bottom of the beam, it's like in the middle of the room, and at the bottom of the beam there's a small hole. And then there's like writing there that says that in order to reach enlightenment, you have to be able to get through that hole. It's a tiny hole. So we're standing there like, what on earth does that even mean? And then like we just see kids start like going through the hole. We're like, oh, you have to be like a child. Like children are very like perceptive and very enlightened. And as they grow, we kind of kill that of them. They have like this very raw sense of what's going on. And I guess in this world, part of growing up is growing out of that essence, and which is sad. But I think for me it was very eye-opening. But like, not so much to be childish, but to be childlike. In a way.
Innocent.
Yeah.
But you know, Becky, so if you are speaking to somebody from your mind and you're trying to persuade them, they won't hear you. Yeah. You have to speak heart. The heart has to be the intervention.
And kids do that because they're unfiltered. It comes from, they really feel what they're saying.
Why do you smile?
No, I was just gonna add to, you were talking about like the 7% that you want to capture or you want to pull to be part of this. I think the main problem would be the confines that are within the system as itself, and that's something that like really needs to be seen into or breaking down.
Just
maybe
explain what
explain.
you mean by that.
I mean, like the certain ways that we work or the yoga works or the certain belief systems or or the language that is used, the ways that it's done, like I feel that would be the biggest barrier, like to that's the only thing that's like holding. That's the barrier that's there. Like that's stopping that 7% from like just like for me.
I think it's stopping the 93%. I don't think it's stopping the 7%.
Mm.
There'll be 7% who are in pain and they want a solution. Those are the ones we want. I'm not interested in the 93%. The 93% are going to be with the BMWs and the rings and the nails and that's fine. That's absolutely no problem. It's not here. We're not here to transform the entire planet.
Yeah.
We're here to create enough of an agency.
Yeah, I understand that about the 93%, but like I feel, because I know some of these people like this, like that, like feel that they very much fit into the 7%.
Yeah.
And yeah, I feel that's like the things that stop them from embracing and taking on this path or joining such communities.
What stops
Yeah.
The sound, the science of sound.
Not the science of sound, but the rules.
You
The
mean
culture,
like not
yeah.
Like the
changing,
fear of
the
stepping
wearing
out.
lights,
Yeah, exactly.
the not
Basically,
smoking weed,
yeah.
like having to cut yourself off from a certain lifestyle.
exactly. Kind of like bounds, yeah.
And look, there's no, that's where there is no cut and dry. There's many people who won't be able to do it, but give them 10 years. Listen to my words. I've seen enough people do this, yeah? 10 years of misery. And they've had I want this anymore. They don't need it anymore. Wait, be patient. Be patient. Now we've got a lot of time.
Yeah.
We've got a lot of time. We can wait.
Like,
But even as we come from that 7%,
like with me, I mean, I used to smoke, drink, and eat meat and do all sorts of stuff.
And meat.
Yeah. I went to a few classes, I think at Ishtar, 2009. A few classes. And I dropped off smoking and continued drinking for another year. And that fell off as well. But yoga does that too.
Yeah.
But you choose whether you want to or not. Yeah, even with meat.
Yeah.
You choose whether you want to or not. At a certain point, eggs as well, like,
Yeah.
but you choose when you want to or not. Yeah. So it's one of those things. But it's also the mind. Because we're also working the mind as well. So when the mind tells you stuff, it does. It does.
Yes.
But this, it's no longer suitable. And so, but you fight it off. There's so many things that we, exactly. Stories that we tell ourselves. Same as, do you really need to get a BMW? Or do I really need to drive a small Fiat 500? That's like 100,000 as compared to like 1 million. But the mind says you need that Ferrari that's 4.5 so you can show it. So it's one of those things where you really need to watch what your mind is actually telling you. But with this technology, the more and more you bring your mind to the heart, the more it actually tells you the truth. That you don't need those things. But the truth is there. It's there, we know. Yeah.
But the one thing I do want us to understand and maybe to represent as well is you don't have to have given that stuff up to come to yoga. It's not mutually exclusive. We don't want to put that message out there. It's an important message. You can work on giving it up. Maybe someday you'll want to give it up. But you don't emphasize that. You just say, just come to yoga. You don't have to give it. Don't come to yoga stoned. Because then there's going to be weird things happening. But come to yoga. Yeah. Just come. And you know, you don't have to wear white. We don't insist on that. If they want to train as teachers, that's another story. Yeah? But if you want to just come to yoga, just come. Come and experience it. A few classes, of course, there's many people who will be very uncomfortable. And, the head is too busy, so they won't come back. But there's enough people who come and experience the energy and go, oh, this feels so good. And they come back.
I remember when before I even really started, before we started the classes and stuff, you were telling me about what the expectations and the ideals of the teacher. And I was super intimidated, but it's been really good because I really like the way you teach in terms of learning through experience, which goes in line with this philosophy I have of trying to get your being and your doing to be in alignment. And I feel like learning through experience is exactly that. You bringing your being and your doing to the same place as opposed to forcing yourself to do something.
Exactly. And the amazing thing about the yoga is it's a bridge. That's all it is.
Another thing that had just been coming up for me since we've been talking, and also in my own personal practice, is the idea that it's working every day. Just because a month ago I was like, and I see my ego now. There it is, and this is the things it does. It doesn't mean that now I stopped, every time, because I see the play between I found the thing now, and actually I'm going back. So even in terms of the yoga and in terms of people seeing you as a teacher, I like to see people see me do the things that I'm not supposed to, so that I can say, I'm working on myself, I'm not perfect yet. These are the things these are the goals. I'm here now. Maybe last month I wasn't smoking a joint, and today I'm smoking a joint. You know what I'm saying? And I'm working my way back to that place that I was at. It's
I think for me it's also important not to judge yourself, because as Ita was saying, you don't have to give all those things up. Sometimes it's just a matter of you really like that thing, you really enjoy beer. And that's okay. I enjoy my beer, I enjoy my joint. I think the important thing is to work on what those things are attached to, and the unhealthy attachments, where you connect with alcohol in unhealthy ways. So maybe sort those out. But I don't necessarily feel that there's anything wrong with enjoying something or in a healthy way, and you shouldn't judge yourself for, you're still a human being, you still live in the material world, and you
can still balance.
Yeah. Yes. It's like, you think about whether it's sustainable and how many children
I'm gonna buy this tomorrow, and it's
or how many children are not sleeping sewing, But I don't think there's a problem. It's like everything in balance, everything in proportion.
It's a great place to end.
Go for it. Experience.
Does anybody want to add something, final things?
Truth. That's something I find that with many people that I work with, the one thing that heals people is the truth, and it's about getting there. The sooner we start loving ourselves and the truth, the quicker we heal, and the more integrated and all we become. So it lies there. So start now.
Sometimes when you tell the truth, you are seen as bad person.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Speak the truth and it kills you.
Yeah. But it liberates someone, even if they're silent about it. It gives them
What's that
the
saying?
bravery to also
Speak the truth even when your voice shakes or something like that.
Yeah.
And also true light workers go into the dark.
Also, the important thing I want to say to Risani is, we're not here to be popular. It's not what we're here for. We're here to make change. So along the way, it's guaranteed you're going to attract a lot of antagonism. It's part of the journey. And you have to learn to stand strong with that. And it's just a test. When you're drawing antagonism, it's just a test to see if you can stay strong. Stay with yourself, supporting yourself. So think about that.
One more person to say Satnam, so we have 3.
Satnam.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody, for your attendance and for your dedication.